Hey, good morning, all saints. I hope this finds you well. A few weeks ago, Philip introduced a new person coming on staff at All Saints named Guy Delcambre in this newsletter vlog. I wanted to take the opportunity to further introduce you to Guy, who has been working at All Saints for a solid 2 days now. So, Guy, just the first question is, how have the first 2 days been?
First 2 days couldn't have been better. Very hospitable. Nature around the office. It's exciting. I mean, my wife and I, my family and I have kind of been around All Saints for quite some time, just with friendships and whatnot. And it's very exciting and exhilarating, honestly, just to be a part of the team, to be in kind of the office space and just be around people.
Yeah, well, I want to ask you some questions about your wife, Marissa. As you said, y'all know a lot of people at All Saints and have been around and in various ways over the years. But before I get there, will you tell us a little bit about your background and maybe specifically how you came to faith in Jesus?
Yeah, absolutely. So born and raised in southern Louisiana, tiny little French town called Abbeville, which is only about 20 minutes away from the water. There's no shore in Louisiana, just marsh. But born and raised there, lived there until I was 18 years old. It's a French Catholic community. Grew up in the Roman Catholic Church, and the cathedral is downtown. The whole city emanates from that point. So it's very much kind of the rhythm historically of the city. Whole family is Roman Catholic back home. My parents moved from the Roman Catholic Church into a Pentecostal church plant back in the mid 80s, which when you think about it, the imaginations almost go full circle back around.
Hmm.
They're very, very vivid imaginations in terms of spirituality. But grew up in Assemblies of God Church, and that church plant would eventually grow into a maturing congregation of a few hundred people. And came to know the Lord personally when I was a junior in high school. At that point, I had a youth minister at our church who really invested in my life and began to call out some things and speak some things into my life that were very affirming. And I would even say opened me up to
Hmm.
what the Lord had been doing, what he recognized the Lord was doing in my life. And quickly jumped into scenarios which felt uncomfortable, but like things like leading Bible club, as a senior in my high school, was just such a different reality from when I was beginning of my junior year of high school. So yeah, got to know the Lord in high school, and then from there went to a Bible college and perhaps even smaller town. So my small town in Louisiana, and I went to a smaller town called Waxahachie, here just south of the Metroplex, about 35 minutes or so. At the time, I was kind of fooled because I thought I was moving to Dallas. But lo and behold, I was 35 minutes away in Waxahachie.
Well, that kind of catches us up a little bit. There's much more to the story in between that question, what I'm about to ask you about. But would you tell us a bit about Marissa, the kids, and what you've been up to before coming to All Saints?
Yep, absolutely. So shortly after studying at college, moved back to my hometown, and was served on church staff and pastoral ministry in a variety of capacities for right at 10 years and back in my hometown. After a decade there, moved to the Metroplex, to the northern side, to Denton, Texas, planted a church there, charismatic, non-denominational church plant back in 2009 in Denton. That church is still going strong, although it moved to Argyle, Texas, a few years after we started it. So involved in pastoral ministry for 12 years, and then pivoted into nonprofit work, and worked for a global ministry based in Florida, 110 countries around the world for 4 years, and then moved closer into the Metroplex with work, and worked for an organization called Advocates for Community Transformation. Worked at ACT for 5 years, and then felt the Lord calling me once again back toward pastoral ministry in the Anglican tradition. So left my job at ACT after 5 years, and started seminary. So that's kind of where I am. In the midst of all that, my kids, we have 3 daughters who are older, teenage, 2 college students, 20 and 19 years old, and then a 16-year-old who is in high school. And then we have a little 8-month-old baby boy. So Marissa and I have a pretty big spread under the roof right now. So yeah, that's kind of vocationally just a high level view of what it's looked like over the past 20 years, I would imagine by now.
Yeah. And one of the ministries you've been very involved with, maybe say something about that, is Art House Dallas. And it relates to, I should say, what your position here will be, which is Director of Pastoral Care in the Arts. So I'm asking about pastoral care second, but what's your relationship been with Art House Dallas, and how do you see the vocation of artist fitting within the life of a church, and how can a church be more intentional about discipling artists, and how are you going to go about helping us do that at All Saints?
Yeah, so I think the first thing to mention, I got a wife out of Art House Dallas, which is kind of an amazing gift. Marissa was she was finishing her degree at Dallas Baptist University, and then was recruited from Sony Music to help start or help be a part of Art House Dallas. And then she's been involved for the last 12 years, helping a few friends start that here locally. And I became involved as a writer, and became involved as a writer as I was working on my first book that was publishing, probably almost a decade ago now. And since then have stayed involved. What I've come to recognize is the importance of the vocation of the artist. Prior to that, I was a pastor, and that was a vocational identity that was very firmly set in place in how I engage with the world. But the artist was always something that needed to emerge in me. I'd always expressed myself as a writer, but I had never seen that as an actual identity to engage with the world through that identity. And, I would say most churches don't have a good understanding or a good way of how to engage with an artist. All Saints was a church that has always been attractive to us because we've recognized that. All Saints has been a church that recognizes and affirms the vocation of the artist as someone who is, through the lens of a Christian or through the imagination, right? And particularly a Christian imagination sees things that are broadly translatable to the world around them, like goodness, truth, and beauty, and how that contributes to the common good of the city. And then how in turn, just the benefit of them expressing themselves and how God's created them to be as a maker within society around them is truly, truly important. One thing that I'm excited about at All Saints is to help further build out the value of art and beauty as a formational value to who we are as followers of Jesus, and how that transcendence can come into our life and how it can shape our imaginations of what we see in Scripture, how we envisioning the Lord using us, independent of what our vocation is throughout the city, to participate not only for the common good, but for the kingdom that we belong to.
Yeah, one of the first little vlog interview things I did for our newsletter was with a pastor in Nashville named Scotty Smith. And Scotty was very involved in Art House Nashville in the early days. And the subject I interviewed him on was the book of Revelation. I was just asking him, what does it mean? Which I'm still no offense to Scotty, but I still have questions about Revelation even after talking to him about it. One of the things he said, because he wrote a commentary on the book of Revelation. He said the commentary came out of a Bible study he did at Art House Nashville in the early days of Art House. I forget exactly what decade that would be, but and you a lot of times as a pastor, you think I have this knowledge, this wisdom, this spirituality I'm going to bring, and I'm going to gift it to this community. But one of the things Scotty said is that actually the artist, in teaching the book of Revelation to artists, the artist actually helped him understand Revelation, because the truth is Revelation is such an evocative and really imaginative book that artists, I think, do need the church in the sense that they need to be discipled to be faithfully present in their vocation, but also the church really needs the arts, and not just in a peripheral way, but in a truly essential way to understand our own faith more. And so I'm really excited about that part of your job. You're also going to be doing pastoral care. Jay Wright, who was a priest here for I don't know, over a decade at All Saints and St. Bart's, was over pastoral care most recently here at All Saints. It's been an area, as All Saints has grown. We did a survey just to see how people were growing or not in their faith about a year and a half ago. And what we found was that people loved All Saints. Barna, the group that helped us do this survey, marked us very helpfully. They noted that we were a very healthy church, but the lowest kind of area was people feeling connected to one another. And then it wasn't clear to people how to take next steps in the faith. In other words, people thought, how do I move from just being an attender to someone who serves at All Saints and then just generally receive spiritual direction? So we hired Aaron Roy, who is connecting people with one another in parish life, connecting people with one another. And then one of the things you're going to help us think through, none of us have all the answers just yet, but how do we move people into deeper and deeper formative practices and spiritual formation? I wonder if you just say something about pastoral care, shepherding, and why that sort of work excites you.
Yeah, I think the most exciting thing, as it relates to what you're talking about, and in particular, like pastoral care, is the movement of knowledge from our heads into our hearts and outflowing through how we live, right? So one thing that I'm very excited about, very passionate about, is bringing the knowledge that we feel as though we have on a regular basis, bringing that into our daily existence, into the ordinariness of who we are, right? Rather than that being sort of relegated to a Sunday morning corporate experience or an experience in a pastorate even. How is that exuding? How is that knowledge flowing through all of who we are? We belong to a tradition that gives us a great framework. Things like our daily office, our daily prayer, and allowing not just prayer, but allowing that knowledge again to not just be like a logical, rational way of being, but engaging again through an imaginative lens of how we engage with what's actual real, with the kingdom of God that is continuing to come into our world here now.
Yeah, very, very well said. I should say at this point, I remember when we did this little video introducing Aaron, I gave Aaron's email address and said, you're welcome to flood her inbox. I know you probably wouldn't mind if people flooded your inbox, but I should say you were very, very part-time throughout this summer and you begin full-time July 1, but we did want to, so your bandwidth in terms of having lunches and coffees may not be as robust just yet. But come July 1, you will be here full time. You're in the ordination process. When you were at Christ Church Plano previously, we're in the ordination process there. That's been transferred to the Anglican Mission in America, and Lord willing, you'll be ordained to the diaconate first, and then the priesthood, and come July 1, you'll be more kind of fully integrated into the life of All Saints. But hopefully, if you've been watching this has at least been an introduction. So if you see Guy on Sunday or run into him at a coffee shop or lunch or something, you can say hi and introduce yourself and get to know Guy more fully. If there's anything I or another member of the clergy can do for you this week, feel free to email me, dustin@ascdallas.org. Guy, we're so excited about you being at All Saints, and I appreciate you genuinely for sharing some of your heart over these past few minutes.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. And I would just say that don't hesitate. If you're curious and want to get to know me, definitely don't hesitate to reach out or stop me on a Sunday. I'm excited to be here generally, and that my role is going to my time is going to only continue to grow as we get closer to July. But definitely reach out, definitely say hi. I'd love to get to know as many people as I can.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Guy, and thank you, All Saints, for watching this. I look forward to worshiping with you this coming Sunday, which is Baptism Sunday, one of the more beautiful services in the year. So I hope you're able to join us there. Go in peace.